The Wood Elves are a lot like the High Elves in the way that they haven't so much changed drastically in Immortal Empires, but if your playstyle didn't gravitate around what makes the race strong, you will notice a bit of a rough landing in Immortal Empires, but if you are able to centralize your play around those strengths, you're going to find yourselves with one of the top tier factions and absolutely wrecking face. Welcome to Elven Plot Armor, and these are the Wood Elf changes in Immortal Empires for the race and sub-factions. Now starting off with the most obvious change, let's go into economy, and more than ever we are centralized around our forests, which are where we depend on getting our wealth from. No longer do outposts have a economy option, instead only those which have a resource building can generate any gold. This more than ever means that unless you need an outpost for recruitment or for giving construction reduction, there is no reason to build outposts or have a network of outposts spanning the entire empire. You are a forest dwelling race, and more than ever the game is asking you to roleplay and deliver there. So how can we gear this? To have a strong economy, you need lots of forests. You can achieve this through the confederations. See my Sisters of Twilight confederation video to show how to get all of these quite easily. We have all of the legendary lords here by turn 30, excluding Drycha, who we can get later. But why is that important to do? Well, because we can get resource buildings, but more importantly, the key economy buildings will help you grow and produce a lot of wealth. 600 gold for a single turn economy building is pretty damn good. Get that across all of your buildings and you will have no problem fielding your military. You still have access to the Wayroots system, which will allow you every 10 turns to go and claim yourself another tree. All you need to do is use diplomacy and wit to be able to defend them. So if you haven't seen my mastery guide on the Wood Elves, which I do recommend checking out before this if you haven't already, the way to play Wood Elves strong is to get a tree, build it up, and then centralize all of the allies around there to you. You want them to defend the provinces you don't want to own, to defend the one that you do care about. And we can see this on full display over here. We have used Grombrindal as our means of securing alliances here. I had to get a few wins to get the confederation with Orion quickly, but now we've got a bunch of settlements we don't really need. I don't really care about any of these because the Witchwood is earning us money, this is giving us some obsidian, this is giving us some salt, but other than that, this is not doing anything for us. This, well, why don't we gift them to someone who can build them up from being a pathetic little outpost into a full-fledged fortress? Let's build ourselves an ally who can make much better use of these. Anything without a resource, we're just going to gift straight to Grombrindal and take him for all he's worth. Now keep in mind, you want to have a good bank account because we'll need to gift him a lot of money after this so he can actually build these up. Aghall doesn't do much for us, but for Grombrindal it will give him a fortress, so let's give him that too. We can trade this finally for a military alliance, let's do that as well, and we'll join his border with Morathi. Now we've got ourselves set up with everything owned by Grombrindal except those with resource buildings. We can even send lords up here to take these settlements and gift them to him, but here's the trap guys, you need to make sure you have money up your sleeve to give back to him. Why is that? Because look at these, they've all got no garrisons, we need him to build these up quickly, right? So this is a big investment, but if it works, it is one that's absolutely worth it. So let's just keep on giving him some large gifts. Alright, so we gifted him about 15,000 gold, but that's okay because he's going to have all of that to upgrade these settlements and build a fortress so we never have to worry about the Witchwood again, and there'll be a nice barrier to these tradable resources. Now this demonstrates just one of the ways that the new meta really benefits the Wood Elves. The settlement trading mechanic is so strong. Not only does it position your allies where you need them, but you can also sack the settlement first, occupy it without ever building it up, and then gift it to Grombrindal. This now allows you to build your own border around your territory like we see here. Just like in Warhammer 2, the diplomacy around Athel Loren is a lot more fickle and finicky. The hardest thing is getting Clan Angren on side. You might not always achieve this, but if you can do it, you are going to set yourself up very good. You have the Vampire Coast, you have Beastmen, you have Skaven down here, all of which don't want anything to do with you. So if you can keep one or two order-type factions down here alive, you're going to be in a really good spot. Up here, we've got the Empire already on side. See the Sisters Guide to see how to do that quite easily. But here we have a situation where I can see people having some trouble. Clan Angren hate us, and they are at war but it's slightly starting to improve over time with Carcassonne. So if we just gift these guys enough, we should be able to do okay. But what else can we do? They're at war with the Disciples of More, who are down here. We're never going to get in contact with them, so let's just join the war for some money, simply gift the money back to him, and there we go. We are now improving to the positive. Let's take a look at Carcassonne. The other thing you need to keep your eyes on is look at that balance of power, right? Not doing too good. She's got powerful enemies all around her. If she falls, her problems become ours. We don't want to ally because that'll piss him off too much, but we don't want her to die. So let's give her, let's say give her 2,000 gold, and this will free us up to take out more trees. Remember, every 10 turns you can underpass and get yourself a new tree, and then you'll have plenty of fights. Just a quick reminder guys, if you are enjoying the video, please consider liking and subscribing. It really helps out. Ask any question in the comments, I answer everything, and if you'd like to talk strategy, feel free to join the Discord. Cheers. A few turns later, in Orion's camp, we have built the 3 key resource buildings, and now we need to choose a side to help fight. And I think either the dwarves and or the lizardmen, they're probably getting along because there's so much evil around here, so we may as well attack the vampire counts here. So we'll join their war, give them some money, or take some money, sorry. Cool. And this will hopefully get us towards a positive relationship. On the topic of lords, they still have quite good options, but the Ancient Treemen towers above all of them, keeping in mind that Ancient Treemen are still one of the best lord options in the entire game. A one-man army of a lord that can heal itself, go toe-to-toe with absolutely anything, but moreover, the way that wounds work in Warhammer 3, they really benefit. When a single entity goes below 50% or 25%, you can heal its hit points above there, but it will have a permanent reduction to its stats due to being wounded until that battle is over. So the more hit points something has, the harder it is to reduce it below those thresholds. Now looking at the Treeman, who has a hulking nearly 10,000 health, lots of hit points to slow down those wound reductions, and the ability to heal. I will notice there has been a nerf in the traits. Obviously Knowledgeable no longer globally gives Winter Magic, but the new one's not useless. A 15% experience gain is actually pretty damn good. Given how powerful Wood Elf heroes are, having a lord with this trait is going to absolutely help you. Talon of Kurnos is also reined back from 35% to 15%, and it's still absurdly strong. On the topic of military, Way Watchers are still the gold standard of archers. It is neck and neck between them and Sisters of Avalon as to who is better, but in the Wood Elves, I would take Way Watchers any day of the week. They suit the more mobile, skirmish-oriented playstyle of the Wood Elves, and whilst they don't have the magic attack, you don't really need it with the Wood Elves. You're not fighting a lot of demons as the Wood Elves. They are the perfect tool for the perfect army, and that goes all the way through the entire roster. The Glade Guards still perform very, very well, and you might see an increase in and the reduction in reload speed across all factions is going to affect you, but it affects everyone else as well. The good thing is that Wood Elves can throw down better than any other else due to not being so hedonistic, and even their archers perform much better in melee than most other elven equivalents. But the non-archer units will also see more play because you're still outranging the majority of factions you're up against, and this will force them to come to you, meaning that those melee units now have a more chance to do some damage. Taking less arrow damage to close the gap, and the safety of the streets of settlement battles will also allow them to get more mileage. This is a ranged army, do not get any ideas around that, and yes, you can still get away with majority archer oriented armies. However, you can get a lot of mileage, and the fights that are a bit more difficult, having a few melee units and definitely some cavalry now will make all the difference. Hawk Riders perform just as good, especially with a captain on a hawk as well. Send them to the enemy backlines and watch them shred the enemy leadership when they dive in. Heroes still provide obscene benefits on the battlefield when in forest, so no one is going to come and step on your grass as the Wood Elves. That hasn't changed. Research functions essentially the same, and officers do as well. Remember that prioritizing the diplomatic research will help your game in this, and don't just jump for this, which gives you the oversight of all of the trees. A faction that hasn't seen you is a faction that can't declare war on you, and that has its benefits. So essentially every forest should have all 3 economic buildings, a resource building, maybe something to increase your hero caps, but then have one and only one building dedicated to military units. For example, this will have all of the economy, but maybe a stable. This might have your flying units, and this allows you to globally recruit every single unit, especially if you use this outpost, which will reduce global recruitment by 50%. Also, to fast track your growth and defend your brand new settlements, don't forget that you can always upgrade growth of the forest, and this will give you a guardian as well as fast track these buildings so you can get the economic buildings even quicker. Forest invaders still provide more of a benefit than a nuisance because they either give you a good source of plunder or they can be used to give dilemmas which will boost your diplomatic relations. Always take those diplomatic boosts. And yes, and all the Wood Elf factions can be done by Confederation quest, see the guide on how. The victory condition reward is the exact same as the High Elves, being a +3 for all hero capacities, so quite good, but this is one of the more difficult early short victories to get comparatively. It's still relatively easy, but you need to get 2 of your rituals completed. Now in terms of these, this is the same game from before. I was enjoying myself, got carried away, and now at turn 64 we have all of the forests under our control and have confederated every single lord, including Drycha, so we can have a good walkthrough late game here. At this point, it's quite easy to get the Witchwood, and that's a high priority because you can get Ariel. That's as easy to do as ever. The other ones are a bit more challenging to do, but just the same formula as before. Find yourself a really great defensive ally and build yourself around them. Of course, you don't need to declare war on Gainvale. Eventually, a Chaos Army will spawn there and destroy it, so you can just teleport there with a single lord with a small army and take it over. Easily done. The priorities still are relatively the same. You can still get the one up here from defeating a single Norscan tribe. To be honest, I'm not sure what spawns that quest, but it seems to show up eventually. Drycha is definitely a late game consideration, and there's typically some greenskins down here just in case you didn't get that earlier quest. It's another good opportunity as well to befriend Thoric or even Crocker, and you'll have no trouble with allies. You'll find late game though, you will probably need to consistently give everyone just a little bit of gold, but you shouldn't have any trouble with gold. Where turn 61, we've got an income of 55,000, 11,000 that is trade. There is no problem. Like I said, just find new forests, get the economic buildings built up, easy. Now for the faction specifics, starting off with the Heralds of Ariel and everyone's favorite Sisters of Twilight, and they are still again a top tier faction in the game. The Forge of Death is amazing, it works exactly the same as previously, and you can get all these amazing items. It's basically just extra cream on top of an amazing faction, and these girls, they just kick ass like they did in the previous game. As a rule of thumb, if the race was very late updated in the second game, you can expect very little of it to change. These are just the same powerhouse ladies that you know and love from the previous game, with those deadly hawk riders and a bit of extra ammunition. The only consideration is that the exiles on the heck here are no longer your go-to ally, because eventually Grombrindle will attack them. Instead, clear the Dark Elves, take those settlements off the exiles, and then give them back to Grombrindle and make him your defensive ally here. From here, transpose every bit of information to all of the different Wood Elf lords, because it's exactly the same. From the world route map, you can see who owns what. Once you see this is raised, just teleport down here and you'll be able to befriend and get a defensive ally to quickly build up the tree health of Gainvale. The biggest weakness of the Sisters of Twilight is they're a bit slower to work their way into, but if you follow my 20 turn guide, you'll be able to quickly confederate yourself in there by correctly taking down the right enemies at the right time. In terms of their skills, the Sisters of Twilight can still increase the Forge of Death and get the obligatory reload and speed upgrades, as well as the passives. On top of being beat sticks on the battlefield, they again still boost this amazing personal tree, giving them growth, diplomatic buffs, more movement range, more post-battle loot, and yeah, they're just amazing, and they make dragons as well as hawk riders even better. Can't say enough good things about these girls. So the Sisters of Twilight are just a tiny bit more different, but they are just as powerful and are still an S tier faction. Next we have Talysn, headed by the God King Orion himself, and this is actually a save file from an online stream we did. The idea behind Orion: forest battles need no more help, they're already unbeatable in the forest, and a reduction to cavalry really doesn't add up to much, given you only want 2 at most 4 of those in any given army. Similar to Attain and the High Elves, the role that Orion plays is more of the opportunity he affords and his early game expansion. Here we are turn 35, and much more comfortably than with the Sisters of Twilight, we've managed to obtain all of Athel Loren. Of course, the Sisters of Twilight are very easy to obtain, and their holdings. Remember that you don't get the Arrows of Kurnos archers on the Hawk Riders, but the Sisters of Twilight themselves are still the one-man or 2-woman wrecking ball that they are in their own army. Yes, those pumped up Hawk Riders are really nice, but does that mean that they're bad in the hands of other factions? Well, they're nowhere near as potent, but it doesn't really hurt the faction. They're more cream on top of a very good faction. You don't get the Fortress of Death, instead you get the Wild Hunts that can be useful to try to again teleport to other forests and take them as quickly as possible. So for rapid expansion, Orion really is your man. He's very, very good at darting around and obtaining new holdings. The other thing is, Orion's quest is the only Confederation quest that can be a bit janky, because you need to raise or sack 10 individual settlements, and that can be a bit of a pain. A bit more of a pain than you think. It's not that it's hard to do, but trying to rush it early, you do have to go out of your way to do it. And while I did do it with the Sisters of Twilight, I wouldn't recommend people doing it. This is actually a really comfortable game, and I think Orion's a bit underrated. I'd say overall he feels better in this game than he did in the previous game. Yes, the units he buffs are very, very forgettable, but those units are a bit more usable in this game, and there are more forests to deep-root to, meaning you get more out of his ability. Durthu starts with all the same diplomatic considerations as Orion, and of course we do have Broken Axe here now, so the threat level is slightly higher, but you have more than enough skills to be able to deal with it. It's just a simple case of eliminating these dwarves, taking the heathlands, and then it plays out the exact same as Orion's. On your tree units, you can apply aspects which will give one of 3 different buffs that you just simply pay for. In terms of him as a legendary lord, he still boasts all of the beast magic spells. Of course, you might want to mix that up and get a life mage or at least a branch wraith with Durthu. His unique line is still very good. Lamentations of Despair is just as good as it previously was, and he's just amazing at making a whole family of trees turn into an unbeatable pile of beatsticks. No pun intended. Tree folk always have amazing lines across the top here, as well as the Treekin 20% ward save. Durthu still rocks. As an overall assessment, he's similar to Orion, and honestly, I would say he is bang smack right exactly where he was. Treemen are the signature monster in this roster, and he buffs them. What more can I say? And of course, every single race has that one faction that is a purely machoistic flex campaign, which takes on difficulty at all ends, and that, of course, is Drycha. Not only are you that shrub that everyone hates, we also have demons which hate everyone coming in. That in itself is a bit of an opportunity to alleviate some diplomatic tension. Oh, it just leaves you with a lot of things hating you, a lot of things fighting you, and you had better be good at working your tree folk on the battlefield to make good use. But is she powerful? Well, yeah, she is. The Wargrove of Woe are an excellent example of a faction which has some challenges with some restrictions, but they're made up for by a few really great buffs, which make them very unique and interesting to play. And this is delivered through their forest spirit building line, allowing you to build malevolent tree spirits, as well as the branch wraith and of course the heavy treeman equivalents, only at tier 3. Needless to say, this is very strong, and if you ever need some lighter support, you can pay for a percentage to land some extra wild spirits in your army anytime. And don't forget, you still have aspects options. You also get 1 extra amber to help yourself with some elite research, and your elf units are more gimpy than ever with the fantastic glamour debuff. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you have found it interesting, please consider giving it a like or a sub. Discord and Patreon details in the description. Comment any suggestions, I answer everything. This is Elven Plot Armor, and I will see you next time.